All right, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be picking back up on nonverbal persuasion. Uh,
Oh, cool.
yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. We're looking at episode 3 from The Art of Nonverbal Persuasion, and we're going to be talking about things like mirroring and, gesturing and personal space, and even something called the nodding effect. Have you ever heard of that?
I have. Yeah, it's really fascinating how much we can actually say without using any words, isn't it?
It really is. And I mean, I've always thought mirroring was super interesting, but, I've kind of wondered if it's a little, manipulative, right? Like, are you just copying somebody?
Yeah.
Or is there something more to it?
Well, I think it's a really good question, and it really comes down to being subtle about it. So, like, imagine you're meeting someone new, a client or something, and they lean forward when they're talking to you. If you, in a very subtle way, mirror that action, lean forward a little bit too, it actually creates like a subconscious connection. It's like your body language is saying, hey, we're on the same page here. But if you're too obvious about it, it can really backfire.
Right. So it's more of an art than just,
Exactly. It's about building that rapport, that sense of harmony. Like if you think about a really good salesperson, they're often really good at mirroring. They'll kind of subtly match their client's posture or their gestures, and that helps them build trust, build that connection.
that makes me think about, hand gestures. I've heard that open hand gestures can make you seem more trustworthy. I mean, is there any truth to that?
Yeah. It actually might go all the way back to like our evolutionary past. Showing your open palms basically meant that you weren't hiding a weapon. And even today, it can still signal that you're being honest and transparent. Like, picture a politician giving a speech, right? If they're using these open, expansive gestures, they seem much more approachable. If they keep their hands hidden or clenched up, in fists, it can have the opposite effect.
Yeah, it's almost like your body language is either supporting what you're saying or
Yeah.
going against it.
Like if you're saying, trust me, but you're like, hiding your hands or, your body language is all closed off, people are going to pick up on that. They're not going to believe you.
That makes sense. So let's talk about personal space for a second.
Hmm.
I'm actually really aware of personal space.
Yeah.
Especially because I know some people are just like a lot more comfortable getting close,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
than others. So what do we need to think about when it comes to personal space and persuasion?
Well, it's really important to be mindful of it because it
Yeah.
can be so different depending on the culture you're in or even the relationship you have with someone. In some cultures, standing really close is seen as a sign of warmth, but in others, it can be really intrusive.
So how do you figure that out? I mean, especially when you're trying to, persuade someone.
I think the key is to be aware, right? Like if you're in a really formal business setting, it's usually best to keep a little bit more distance. It shows respect, it shows professionalism. But if you're at a party with friends, that same distance could make you seem like you're not interested or you're standoffish.
Right, being sensitive to those kind of unspoken boundaries can make a big difference. So, last but not least, we've got the nodding effect. Is it true that nodding your head can actually influence someone?
Yeah, you might be surprised how powerful it can be. There was this study where they had people watch a presentation, right?
Okay.
And they told some of them to nod their heads and others to shake their heads.
Oh, wow.
And the ones who were nodding, they were way more likely to agree with the speaker, even if they disagreed at first.
Really?
It's like the subtle way of saying, yeah, I'm with you, I'm listening. And it kind of encourages the speaker to keep going and maybe even change their mind a little.
So I guess what we're learning here is that even these tiny little movements can make a huge difference in how persuasive we are.
Hmm.
So do you have any tips, any practical things that people can do to kind of put all this into practice?
Absolutely. Here's a good one. Try subtle mirroring, right? During your next conversation with somebody, just a casual conversation,
Okay.
pay attention to how they're sitting, how they're moving their hands, and subtly mirror them, and then just see if anything changes. Do they seem more engaged? Do they respond to you differently? It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's a great experiment that anybody can try.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for diving into this really fascinating topic with me.
My pleasure. And remember, all these techniques, they can be really powerful, but use them responsibly, ethically.
That's a great point. Well, thanks for joining us on the deep dive, everybody. And remember, sometimes the most persuasive messages are the ones we don't even say out loud.